I did a drink that doesn't have ice in it because last time you
It
could
was
hear the
clinking.
clinking and it was driving me crazy in the editing process. And it was both of us, but like it was like you could just
I
hear
remember
it.
that.
And so now there's no ice,
No ice.
just a
Well,
cold glass.
some ice, but no glass in it.
Okay,
No, yeah.
large ice, large
What does it say,
ice,
baby?
nuance. It's my favorite. Okay, and then we're gonna look at this
You just
camera.
banged.
I
Be
know,
careful.
but hey, just buy shit. Hello, 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 and welcome back to a very special episode of With Love and Butter, a chef's podcast on self love and romance and all the food and drinks that get us through it. Hey, y'all, what's up? I am your host, Courtney Futch. I am a chef, culinary creative director, mixologist, author, and now also fiance. If you have been following along on socials, then y'all already know that your girl is engaged. Femi and I, who y'all know as B, have been engaged for just about 3 months now. He proposed in mid March. And funny enough, it was right after the last episode of With Love and Butter. I feel like y'all, every single time that I am like, oh, I'm going to like, be more consistent with recording the pod. Immediately, something happens, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I just need time to really sit in this and gather all of my feelings. But I'm really excited about today's episode because the girls wanted deets, and deets I shall deliver. Okay. Today's episode, I feel like, is going to end up being really, really juicy, not just because we'll be getting into all of the deets about the moment in time that um, Femi proposed, which was incredible and exciting, but also about how we're feeling now, how we've also kind of gone into preparing for this season, all of the deets on my gorgeous custom ring, and where we are at with wedding planning. So you hear me saying we a lot because Femi is going to be joining us at the end of this episode. We'll be having a little chat over at the dinner table behind us and just talking through all of his thoughts on where we've come so far. This is the first guest I've ever had on the podcast, which is really exciting. So I'm very much looking forward to that. It'll be a super fun conversation. The girls have submitted some cues and some. Hopefully we get some A's. Hopefully we get some A's. I feel like we will. It's going to be a great time. But really looking forward to getting into today's episode. I have been sitting, stewing even. I feel like if you can stew happily, then that's what I've been doing in all of the big, big, big feelings that have been coming up over the last 3 months of our engagement season. And I want to just like lean all the way in, have the conversation with you guys, answer all of the questions that I've been getting, not just about the proposal itself and about the ring and all of the things, but also some things that I wish I felt like I'd been armed with before going into this engagement season. You hear people talking about either the pressure of being engaged, and now suddenly everybody's in your business. They're in your financial business. They're in your womb. Everybody asking about these damn babies, ma'am. Let me walk down the aisle first. You know what I mean? But I just feel like there were a lot of messages that I wish I'd kind of heard communicated more transparently before going into this season. So we are absolutely going to get into some of those things today, and then we'll end up expanding into that a little further down the line in the season. I am currently of the mind that the podcast is going to hold some stuff about wedding planning, either at as a segment at the end of maybe some of the episodes, but I don't want it to become so much of a conversation in this space that we kind of get away from the work that is self love and romantic love and having conversations about that and being really intentional about continuing to build community in that way. So while this is a piece of my life, it's a very exciting next step in my life, in our life. I'm really looking forward to sharing more of that about it with you. I also am of the mind that it is a piece of it. And what I really want to be focusing in on is what this podcast really started off as, which is a place for me to explore my big, big, sensitive, fragile ass feelings. So let's go ahead and get to it. I feel like we have a really jam-packed episode today, and I'd like to try to keep this bad boy like underneath an hour and a half. Y'all know that she is a yapper. She's a yapper. But I want to go ahead and get us started now. Y'all also know that with love and butter isn't loving or buttering without a fun little beverage. At some point, I am going to start sharing the mocktail alternatives of all of the drinks that we create for the What's Shaken segment. But this one does have a little bit of mezcal in it, and it's a really fun drink. She's just a good like watermelony time. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, because it is a watermelon and thyme lemonade mezcal margarita situation. She's really fun. We have a local watermelon stand, like that's not crazy far from us, that I drive by like twice a week just to see if they've got any fresh watermelon, ripe watermelon, and they oftentimes do, and it's really awesome because I get to support Black farmers, which is incredible to me personally, but also for them. And additionally, those are the sweetest watermelons I have ever had. And so whenever I'm busting a watermelon down, I always make sure to save some and then I juice it. And I've used this fresh watermelon juice in order to make today's drink. So it is a combination of fresh watermelon juice, super sweet, just delicious. It's also got some pre-made lemonade. You can use Simply. I love Simply. It's my favorite lemonade brand. And it's also got some mezcal, a squeeze of lime juice, and a little bit of LaCroix. So it's a really simple drink. I muddled it with a little bit of thyme while I was like doing the shaking. You can also swap out thyme for mint. It's really fun. Either way, I don't think that this one has a name currently. But cheers anyway. Cheers to you. Cheers to me. Cheers to B. And cheers to the Brinsons. Period. Okay. Mm. Okay. So now let's go ahead and get into the proposal story. The girls want to know the details, and I've been pretty tight-lipped about it for a number of reasons, but the main one being I decidedly do not have any footage that I want to share with y'all, with anyone. We, well, I guess I should backtrack a little bit. One, Femi and I went ring shopping or ring researching for the very first time in April of 2023. It is now June of 2024. I had to confirm. Okay. I don't know the years anymore. I just exist. Okay. And at that time, the reasoning behind that, we were 2 months into dating, seriously. And the reasoning for it was that Femi wanted to be able to, when the time came, surprise me after having already been able to discover what sort of rings I was interested in, what things I liked. And so we booked a consultation at a jeweler, and we hightail it over there and we go and look and we explore rings and talk about carats and cut and color and clarity and all of these different things, right? Really a lot of C's running around through the space. And I knew that I wanted to be pretty involved in terms of what a custom ring could potentially look like, but it's still pretty early in. Like, we're just kind of getting an idea of like, what do we like? What do we dislike? Right. Like, at that same point in time, we looked at wedding bands for Femi, and it was just kind of like an exploratory sort of thing. And it was great to know like what ring sizes we both were, what sort of metals we were attracted to. As I'm sure you can imagine, she's a gold girl. She's a gold girl down. Thinking about things like sizes and color and cut and, all of the things that kind of come along with traditional engagement ring shopping. And so we really wanted just like room to kind of like let our preferences breathe for a bit while we continue to develop out the rest of our relationship. And we did exactly that. We didn't really do much else ring research between the time of like April and my moving here in August or September of last year. So by the time that we were moved in together, we've resumed the conversations about rings, and the conversation kind of turns to, hey, like, do we want to go custom? If so, like, let's start doing our research. Let's hop on some consultative calls. Let's figure out what we both like. And in the middle of all of that, we come across the company who ends up actually creating my custom engagement ring, which is called Wove. Now, I knew that Femi was in conversation with Wove. right? We did the first consult together, sent over inspo. Jessie was our consultant. She was incredible. Walked us through the entirety of the process, told us about this really cool thing called the replica process, which we'll get into a little bit later. And I was just like, I was like, wow, okay, this is really cool. Femi's in great hands. I've kind of shared what my likes are, what my dislikes are, and now I can like back out of this process. And so that's exactly what happened. Well, some months go by, right? And I have kind of put this proposal thing out of my mind. I know it's coming. I know Femi's on it. I'm really not worried about it. Like, whenever it happens is when it happens. And I'm thinking it'll be sometime in like April of the following year, right? So now this year. That's what I'm thinking it's going to be. Sometime in April. And I don't know why I thought April, but April was about the timing that we went to go look at rings the first time. And April holds a lot of significant dates for us, as well as February, which is when our mom's birthdays are, and also the timing of our first date, and also Valentine's Day, and all of those things. So I'm like, somewhere in one of these two windows, child, we're getting engaged. Okay. Now, Femi had asked me at different points in time, hey, how do you feel about, like, would you want to go from like proposal to an engagement party? And I was like, mm-mm. He was like, well, would you want to do something like intimate or like at a party? I'm like, mm-mm. Like, we had a lot of conversations about what our preferences kind of were for how this moment happens, between the two of us. And without necessarily saying so much, I'm like, I want the most intimate, like us proposal ever, right? Like, it would actually be kind of uncharacteristic for either of the two of us to be like in a restaurant and you propose, right? Like, or somewhere. And that was like one of my biggest things. Like, I just don't want to be a spectacle. Please don't make a spectacle out of the moment. Like, I want something that feels private and intimate and sweet and thoughtful. I want to be able to hear you. I want to be able to hear what you're saying. And my only note is that I want to be able to hear the moment recorded, because I feel like I'm going to blank out like after, and I'm probably not going to remember what you said. And he was like, okay, cool. Now, I never really had any additional thoughts beyond that. I felt like I gave a super loose template, and, really didn't have any additional preferences beyond what I'd shared kind of in that moment. Well, what ends up happening is I am, it's now March, and our official anniversary is in mid March as well. And so I'm going out to dinner with a girlfriend, and I was like, I'm going to use today as like a self care day. It was a Friday. I had just like, we'd had an awesome week, like probably one of the best weeks we'd ever had, like as a unit, individually and together. Like, so many great things were happening for the both of us. So we were just kind of over the moon with how the week had gone down. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm meeting up with one of my homegirls, Ishioma from TikTok. And it was our first time meeting. And I was like, I'm going to go get my nails done. Like, I've really been like roughing it a little bit this week, but I was like, I'm going to treat myself. Like, I'm going to go out and have a good time. And so I get my nails done, but I'm already dressed to like do a full girls day. I go and get my nails done up in Buckhead, and then I go and meet my homegirl out in Buckhead, right? And we're at Carmel. If you live in Atlanta, and Carmel's like really cute, it's over in Buckhead Village. So we're over in that area, and we are having drinks, and we're chilling and we're chatting, whatnot. And she's telling me about what's going on in her dating life, and like I'm talking about like, yeah, and I'm just we're talking about relationship stuff, and we're having a really great time. And Femi had asked me earlier that day, like, hey, do you want to meet over there and we grab, dinner or something after your drinks with your girlfriend? And I was like, yeah, that'd be fun. Now, something to note is that Femi and I go out all the time. We're out all the time. So I'm never like shocked if Femi is like, hey, do you want to go do something after you're doing this other thing? Or, hey, do you want to just do something in general when we don't have anything going on? It's not suspicious to me, okay? So we are, I'm out with my homegirl, we wrap up. He comes, he meets me in Buckhead, picks me up, says hey to my homegirl. We go to dinner, which is not far from the first restaurant. And it's a really cute French fusion, French American restaurant called Le Bon Noche, which is also really, really gorgeous. And we're there, and it's just like we're having like a great dinner. Our waitress was incredible. Her name was Nura. Like, we loved her. We're like all vibing together. We're also the last people in this restaurant for real. And we're just chilling. really chilling. And I'm looking around at the place and I'm like, wow, this would be a beautiful place for engagement photos. Like, I wonder if they do weddings and things here. Like, a super casual comment from me. It wasn't loaded at all. It wasn't a pregnant statement. Was just like a thought. Was just a true thought. Okay. Then he's like, yeah, I wonder, like, that'd be really cool, right? So we're kind of chatting about that. He's like, I don't even want dessert. Can we just go home? I was like, yeah, sure. Sure. I think we got cookies in the freezer. Y'all know I keep a batch on me. And we are, on our way home, and we're listening to like R&B, and it's just like a vibe. I'm like, man, I love this man so much. Like, I just had the best week of my life with this man. This is amazing. Like, I'm over the moon, listening to R&B. Then to go home and hunch. Then I go home probably and do a little hunching. And I was like, man, this is just so great, right? And we pull into the garage, we come in the house. I'm hearing music, and it's not the music that was just playing in the car. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's like my phone is still playing the music from, the car. And I'm like, but that's not what that is. And I'm hearing Duke Ellington and John Coltrane's In a Sentimental Mood, which is, by the way, my favorite song in the world, right? Of all of the songs that exist, probably ever, but especially in the jazz genre, In a Sentimental Mood is like my very much bread and butter, okay? And so we're coming in the house, and I'm like hearing this music, and I was like, how did you do that? Like, I'm confused, right? But meanwhile, we got hella Google Home systems and stuff. So it's actually not that hard to pull off. But I was just like, what is going on? And I look over to my left at the entry of our foyer, and there are rose petals sprinkled from the base of the stairs all the way up the tippy top of the stairs. Because I was going to take my shoes off, but I end up not taking my shoes off because I see the petals. And I'm like, Femi? And he was like, Courtney, walk upstairs. And I'm like, okay. And at this point in time, I've got a lump in my throat like the size of a quarter. I am just undone already. But I don't think that it's fully hit me yet that this is the moment. Like, I just don't think that it's hit me. I'm about halfway up the stairs when it finally lands for me. Oh shit, bitch. You're getting engaged. And I'm coming further up the stairs, and I look back at him, and he was like, bro, don't cry. If you lose it, I'm gonna lose it too. Like, just go up. So I'm like, okay. And to know Femi and I, to know how we like talk to each other, that makes, I think, a lot of sense in the context of us. But anyway, I'm coming up the stairs, and I'm just like, kind of like, oh my God. And like my nerves are starting to hit me, and I'm like feeling like the flutter in my stomach. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is actually, like, this is happening. We've talked about it, but like, oh my God, it's happening. And I'm in an outfit that's for the girls. Now, every woman knows that the way that you dress for your ladies is likely a little bit different, a little bit less conventional than the way that you might dress for a sexy date night with your man. But I was dressed for a day out with the girls. That's what I was dressed for. I knew we were doing dinner later, but I was focused mostly on the girls. So I've got on like this like colorful, vibrant crop top. I've got on like a satin green skirt. I got on like a brown crocodile boot. Like it was a fit. Don't get me wrong, but it's for the female gaze, right? Like it's not from even my man. Okay. So we're coming up the stairs, and I'm realizing this is what I have on. And I think I literally say to him, like, you asshole. You asshole. You got me out here dressed like this. You saw what I was wearing when I left the house. You should have had me change. But anyway, we come up the stairs, and in the living room, he's got the largest, like the most gigantic bouquet of roses I have ever seen. I've never seen roses so perfect, so large, absolutely stunning. Sitting in the middle of the living room, a pillow in the middle of the living room floor, and all of the furniture has been moved out of the way. And he gets down on one knee, and he says a lot of words. And at the end, he asks me if I will marry him. And I think I froze. Like, as it was happening, I was just like, I'm completely just undone. Our favorite song is playing in the background. I am crying, and I just go to kiss him. And he is like, are you gonna say yes? So you have to answer the question. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, yes, right? And so that is the moment of how it happens. And I'm getting even emotional now as I'm thinking about it because it was so us, right? And I think about this a lot where I know that everybody's proposal, like wishes, are very different for everyone, right? Like, I personally did not want, family there kind of like distracting me, didn't want close friends there to be a distraction. The way that I have envisioned this moment was with just me and my person. It's the same way that I see us at our wedding, quite frankly. Like, if we end up having bridesmaids and groomsmen, they will walk in and then they will go sit down. I only see me and him. And for it to be in our home, which is not what I knew I wanted, but it is exactly what I knew I needed from that moment. I couldn't have envisioned anything more perfect because we've really built our home. Nothing in the world feels more like us than here where we live. And I loved that he, who is, by the way, a big gestures person, saw how important the intimacy of that moment was for me and met me in my desire for him from me and vice versa, as opposed to meeting or having me like live as part of his desire for this moment. And it was just so touching. It was so sweet. We have it recorded, but that footage is for us, and I love that. And I didn't want like a photographer. Like, I just wanted it to feel really organic, and like the way that we approach so many other things is really an exercise in subtlety. And I think that that's really like where we live with each other. It's a lot of like thoughtfulness and consideration, and the proposal was exactly reflective of that. So I was just over the moon. I was like, oh my gosh. We kind of took a moment to ourselves, and then we took a moment to ourselves, and then pretty much immediately I was like, I need to call my mommy. And when I'm thinking back about it, right? Because at first I don't remember saying that, like, I wasn't even sure if we were gonna like call parents on the same night that it had happened. I was like, I don't know. I feel like we'll be busy, or um, really just want to like take a moment and just sort of like sit in it, especially if it's like late at night. We'll just call everybody in the morning. But I was like, I actually like that. It shocked me even. I was like, I really want to call my mom. And so I'm looking at the time and I was like, oh my God, I feel like it's actually quite late. Like, it probably is too late to call. He was like, no, she's up. And I was like, what do you mean she's up? And he was like, she's up. She's up. Like, you call her. And so I was like, okay, like, that's weird that you know that, but like, whatever. And so I call, and she answers like on the second ring, and she's all smiley and stuff. And she was like, yeah, Femi called me earlier today to ask for, the blessing. And of course I told him yes. And I'm so happy for you guys. And my stepdad Orlando is on the phone too. And like all of us are just like smiling from ear to ear. I think I'm like still literally crying at this point. I've had to pull off my lashes. I'm a mess. And in that moment, there was just like so much love, even over the phone. Like, my mom was like, I can't wait to see you. You're going to be the most beautiful bride, all of the things. And I was just like, oh yeah, mommy, I can't believe it. I'm getting married. Oh my God, like all of that. And yeah, it was really special. It was super sentimental. We called another two of our close friends. And that was like it for the night, right? Like, we called my dad as well. He didn't answer. It was like really, it was late. Like, it was like 11:30 or something. It's like, I know John is already asleep. Like, I already know he's down for the night. So I was like, we'll call him back again in the morning. Call my cousin Lauren, call my best friend Moses, and like, like, we called his parents too, but they were away traveling. And so there was like a 6-hour time difference or something like that. So we weren't able to catch them that night. And then we went to bed. Like, I genuinely, I felt like it was just the most us experience that there could have been. It was it was perfect. It was perfect. So, we do all that. And the next day, I think we ended up going to like a game night. Moses was actually in town in Atlanta, and we ended up going over to one of his close friends' house. We do a game night. Later that night, we go back to Bar Margot, which is the scene of the crime of where we met and had our first date. And we see Faith, who served us on the night of our first date. Who, like, every time we go in, we make sure that we sit at Faith's table, at any of her tables, and we like hung out with her, and like when I showed her, she like literally screamed. She was like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And it was just like it was really wonderful. Like everybody was super excited for us, and we were really excited, and we decided that we were just going to only focus on telling our IRL, our in real life people, as we came across them, as opposed to like taking it straight to social media. And I think that that has informed a lot of the silence that I think some of y'all have maybe registered, from me specifically online. Somebody who pins themselves as a chronic oversharer, had made the decision to really just kind of like sit in the moment, knowing that a lot of the conversation that comes from sharing that you're engaged also means people are asking questions about like, oh, well, have you chosen a date? And it's like, girl, this just happened yesterday. No, ain't no date. Or, oh, do you know like who you're gonna have as your bridesmaids? Like, just a lot of questions that I know come from a loving place, but I wanted to have just like time to sort of sit and everything before feeling like I eventually have to share all of my happiness with like the people who are around us. And knowing that I don't feel obligated to do that, but it would be very hard for me to continue on, creating content and writing and, kind of moving through the world in the pretty public way that I do without addressing what feels like a pretty large elephant in the room. And I just wanted to be able to do that, sit in it for a little bit, spend some time really cementing plans with this man that I'm marrying before sharing it with everybody else and it becoming part of the spectacle. So that was how it happened. And right now, 3 months later, I think that I'm learning a lot. Some of the themes that I feel like have been coming up for me specifically have been still embracing the act of self love and self worth during this process. I am particularly attuned to the way that plus size brides have to navigate through their relationship with their body, having the audacity to be loved as a big girl, or even the way that people treat engagement or marriage like it is like the final infinity stone as opposed to being a part of the journey, navigating other people's projections about my happiness onto me, and also navigating the absence of people who I thought would be around in this moment with me, and thinking about all of these things right in the context of what I feel like I deserve, and feeling like I get to be over the moon about this moment right now, and it doesn't take away from anybody else and their option to not, or their pursuit of this same experience. And also, one of the trickier feelings that's been coming up has been the space of understanding that not everybody is going to be delighted for you in your journey, and that there have been some people who I've been close to, who I was anticipating completely different responses from, and either got their complete absence or a more snide um, sort of reflection on my previous romantic pursuits. And that has been also, I think, a really interesting thing to see. And I like to communicate about these things quite honestly, because of course people go, oh, when you are in this new season, like just focus on the good, focus on the good. I think that in order to best focus on what is good, because it is good, you also have to be able to confront what isn't great. Right. And it doesn't make it an inherent negative, but I think it does require a degree of honesty that's like, for me at least, really refreshing. I don't like being fake about really anything. And especially when it's coming to me and my feelings, it's just so disadvantageous to feel like I am picking and choosing, right? Like what is kind of resonating with me when all of it is resonating with me. So, I have some thoughts, and as y'all know, I took to writing in order to kind of get these thoughts out, because I feel like they touch on a lot of the other themes that I want to make sure that I'm covering over the course of today's episode before we have Femi join us. And I ended up taking to Substack about it. If y'all are Substackers, and I hope that y'all are, if y'all are following me on Substack, my Substack is free. It's a free newsletter, and it comes directly into your inbox multiple times a month. I wish I could say that it was like a weekly cadence. I feel like it's really like when something is striking me to talk about, I'll talk about it. Or if I have recipes to share, then you'll also see those there. And all of these little notes kind of make their way out into the world, and I find them to be quite fun. But one of the thoughts that I'd had was actually about managing the more projected feelings that other people have sort of presented me with in the time since Femi and I have gotten engaged. This does not have like a name or anything. It's just some writing. So in this newsletter, I am talking about and almost announcing to my Substack community, who may or may not be as tapped in as the folks on social, about the engagement, how it went down, and then ultimately these feelings. So I'll just read it. On the night that it happened, a Friday in mid March, despite over 9 months of talking about rings and early brainstorms about favorite wedding venues, I was completely shocked. That night, we called our parents and two very closest friends and went to sleep or something. The next morning, we called every family member that I could think of to share the news. And that afternoon, we called Femi's friends who knew it was around the corner, and I shared in my close friends on Instagram. That night, we went for drinks and told Faith, the waitress who served us on our very first date, at Bar Margot. We three laughed in the corner booth for so long that it seemed like she might get in trouble if she stayed any longer, and then she sent out champagne. That Sunday, we sank into the couch and daydreamed about our marriage. In the days after, we sat in a quiet joy about the whole thing. Anyone who saw me out would notice a change before my hand could even extend outward. I've had a giggle at the ready. I love love only slightly less than I love my love, and moving toward marriage with him feels like breathing, like one foot in front of the other. It is natural and dense and in my bones, and on me like the ink of my 13 tattoos. And and I also exist outside of my storied pursuit of this kind of love. We waited 3 weeks before sharing on socials. By then, our whole in real life community knew, and it was becoming tedious to hide such a sparkling secret in my hair or behind my back or crop my hand out of the photo altogether. We, but really me, wanted a moment to sit in the silence before the questions started about wedding planning, before the advice rolled in, before the projection. Nothing could have really prepared me for the projection. I remember when you were online looking for love. The OMG wow from heartbreak to engagement. The I hope you don't become one of those bride influencers. The glad it happened for you finally. I remember when you were lonely. In the moment of me sharing my very happy news were at least 50 women who could not wait to point back at what I'd volunteered freely over the years as a reference point for some unreciprocated pity. I am a brilliant, sensitive, heavy, sensual, incisive woman. I am fragile and I am vulnerable and I am vocal as hell. I have a kind and witty sense of play, but I do not play for pity. I am not pitiful, so I cannot embrace what I never have been. The comments came in under my shared post with Femi. Again, my shared post with Femi in my DMs, in my email, and for every 10 tender, warming, heartwarming, and truly congratulatory messages was at least one snide note, hoping to pluck my nerves about wounds that had blistered and scabbed and healed, baby, back in 2021. Wounds I was brave enough to point to in 2022. Wounds I wasn't moved by anymore in 2023. And in 2024, what I have now is a large joy and a long memory and no spare gauze. And at the same time, I noticed the people who were absent from the congratulations, friends who I shared my life with in real life, who hadn't sent a text or even liked a story, friends who are not friends now. I feel lighter, even if only a little bit less burdened by the idea of having to pay for more makeup on the day of my wedding. I feel happy and also annoyed at what other women think is appropriate to say publicly to me about a joy I've shared online for well over a year. I resent that anyone should smirk to themselves about what they think they know about me when I contain more multitudes than my deserved aspirations of a happy love. We all deserve our aspirations. I do not see my aspirations for love as above or below anyone else's. I don't shrink back from conversations about dating. I am just more mindful now of my single sisters. I don't leap forward into conversations about established marriages. I am still learning myself. And onlookers still like to point to my public lessons as an act of failure, but here's the thing. Where I have learned, I do not fail. Here's what I think I know. People are unnecessarily judgmental about Black women who are vocal and vulnerable, especially about love. But love is not a loaded gun. Love is not the bullets in the gun. Love isn't a meritocracy. Love isn't a party favor or a participation trophy for dating. Love isn't formulaic, even a little bit. Love isn't a reward for self work well done. Love, for me, was a series of prayers to myself and to God. Love is messy and unwieldy and also fun as fuck. It is normal to want and to not want and to be both running toward it and away from it. It's expected for people to have complicated relationships with love and to still seek it. But what I do know is that love is not shameful. Love doesn't snicker and point at its less evolved past selves. I refuse to do that with mine. I only care to address these stickier feelings once. I don't apologize for my joy anymore. I don't experience joy to spite. I am joyful. I have always been a happy bitch, a wholesome feeling hoochie auntie. Yes, I have a flask in my bra. Yes, I did make you a pot roast sandwich and sneak it in my purse. And yes, it is still warm. So there are 3 layers of aluminum foil on that thing, okay? And why don't that baby have no socks on? I'm that type of happy bitch. A ring didn't unearth that in me. Prior heartbreak didn't unearth that in me. My sharing either end of the emotional experience spectrum didn't change that in me. I was worthy the whole time. Period. But I'm happy to share my happy with my person. I wish this sort of experience truly on everyone, and I cannot say it enough. I want a big love in days full of little joys for everyone, and especially for me. So I took it. I've taken it. And I am still loving my way through love and getting it an equal mix, quite frankly, of right and wrong. But if I make it look like magic, it's because I'm a damn good creative. Okay? The other thing that I feel is that love did not shrink me, it's expanded me below the waterline at the mass of the iceberg. And what is coming up for me now, as I'm reading this piece back to myself and to you, and also reflecting on what the last several weeks, kind of leading up to the writing of this particular note, even felt like. It felt charged, it felt conflict ridden, it felt quite heavy, and it felt incredibly loaded because I felt like I could not shirk off other people's nasty ass expectations of how I am supposed to move through this season of my life as someone who's, one, never done this before, two, has dreamt of not this moment in terms of being engaged, but has dreamt of the peace that sits over my life with my romantic partner. I have wanted this for me forever. No amount of what I've shared changes that, right? What I have shared, I have never expected to be used against me so that other people feel better about their circumstances or their relationship to their joy in this moment in time. Y'all, nobody can use my shit against me. I poured that tea. I poured that tea. And so it has been, I think, a really interesting experience to kind of, one, watch other folks kind of process either a joy that they feel like I'm deserving of, but can't hold true space for because they would like for it to be them. And I don't see how we can't both have these aspirations and also want big, great love for ourselves together. Or alternatively, I feel like there have been people who like literally just could not wait to point back to the videos that I have, you know, crying in the car, having a really honest moment with myself about what my desires for my future are and how those desires at that point in time were absent. But people use the word lonely like it is a knife. And I don't really see that language that way, one. And two, I think the world would just be a place with happier people in it if women weren't tearing other women down about their aspirations. So that is like my thought. As I have been thinking through, I think both the before and now the after of having shared this, I do feel a deep freedom in my personal space about being able to share and move through these things and kind of own them, own what is mine and disown what is not mine. And that has felt so incredibly freeing, right? Other people's projections are precisely that. They're not reflections, they're projections. And it has made, I think, a world of difference in even now my relationship to our engagement and feeling like I am ready to share and speak more about these things without feeling like there are people who do not wish me well and are still watching. So that has really been a huge relief. And I'm going to encourage Black women in particular, because I feel like so many of these things, and I know that this exists across like all races, but from my experience as a Black woman, what I feel like I can speak to is the bitter feelings I think that can come up with changes in sisterhood and people's ability to hold loving, excited, genuine, deep space for you as you are navigating might not always look like the sisterhood that you envisioned. Some of that is worth fighting for, and other pieces are not worth fighting with yourself over. So that's really like my big word for women who are finding themselves in spaces of transition right now, joyous transition, transitions with grief, transitions in terms of awkwardness, transitions with career, transitions with success. And I'm wishing success on with everybody. I don't even know why I said it like that. But I'm wishing that success on everybody. But it is important to be mindful and also feel empowered to call out what you know are the differences in treatment that come up, because they do not get remediated by sitting with them silently and making that your way to bear. So that's my word for the words. All right, so now that we have gotten all of the big feely things out of the way, there are a couple other things that I feel like I really want to talk about as we're moving into the wedding planning season. Femi and I did just go and tour our first two venues this past week, which has been incredible and exciting and also scary because budget. And we're doing a lot of thinking about, well, where the hell is this money even going to come from? We're both really thankful because we do have some parental support, but we're also thinking about that for ourselves. What does that mean for the way that we are kind of navigating through work, navigating through life? Are we cutting back on things, whatever? Like all of these really kind of interesting conversations that feel tense because of your personal relationship to it, not because it's tense with your partner as you're kind of talking through it. And so as we're kind of moving into the wedding planning phase, because we had decided that we were going to spend 2 months just not touching any wedding stuff at all to the extent that we could. And we didn't do a very good job because we do already have our wedding guest list planned out. And we had that within weeks of getting engaged, right? Like we knew that, we know location. We don't know the venue just yet, but like we know generally where we want the wedding to be and all of these things. And so, despite our attempts at not planning, we've done quite a bit actually. And in the middle of all of that, the thing that's kind of always coming up for me because it colors my lens of everything all the time is food. Right. Food in two ways, actually, which I think is going to be a really interesting one. One, food in the sense of I want to be bringing the most robust culinary experience, curation, thoughtfulness to this experience that I can, not just for it's partly tied to my career, right? But we are also asking all of the people who are going to be in community with us for the entirety of our marriage, for the rest of our lives, to come and spend several evenings with us, right? And spend time and spend money and travel and all of these things. And we're asking people to do that with us. And I want to give these people the experience of a freaking lifetime. I want them to have never had better food than the Courtney Femi Brinson wedding of 2025. Okay. That is what I'm looking forward to. I think like it's secondary to marrying that man. I'm pointing over here because if you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, I didn't even tell y'all if you're watching this on YouTube, but if you are watching this on YouTube, I'm pointing because he upstairs. And if you are not watching this on YouTube, please go over and watch it over on YouTube because baby girl is monetized and I could use all of the dollars that I could get. Thank you. Anyway, Oh my gosh, where was I going with this? Food. So we're asking, hundreds of people to travel in and enjoy our love with us. And a huge part of Femi and I's relationship to each other has food through it. Food is such a huge part of the way that I relate to myself. It is a large part of the way that I have formed community with so many of the people who were even going to be attending this wedding. So many of them were around for like even my Thunder Cakes era, y'all. That was like 2012 onward. And we are wanting to bring them into our love. And one of the most, I think, prevalent ways that we are able to do that is in very clear relationship with the food that we are going to be serving at the wedding and also the rehearsal dinner and any of the additional parties that end up kind of surrounding our actual wedding. So I am really looking forward to that. I am envisioning a really robust menu. I want family style serving. Let's see how much of this actually happens. But I want like family style service so that it's very like communal and people are able to get seconds and just really rich foods, not foods that are heavy, but foods that will make you full. I want short ribs. I want lemon chicken piccata. I want a good Caesar salad dressing. I want brown butter somewhere in there. I will have personally felt like a failure if me, the ingredient I love the most in all of the world, is not present somewhere in that menu. I have to figure out how to incorporate all those things and then work with a caterer who's going to make that come to life for me, and also do that within a budget. And I don't even know what that budget's going to be, but whatever the budget is, they got to stay within that. And then also curate signature cocktails. I do have a cocktail series that I'm really excited to share with y'all, and it's called For Richer or Poorer. And it is, testing out all the different signature cocktail ideas that we want to do for the wedding. So thinking through the culinary, experience that people are going to be getting if they're traveling in, like what are we showing them? How are we kind of letting people experience us as a unit through taste in the senses? I'm really, really excited about that piece. Like that's really where I want to be spending a lot of my time. I've restarted my pottery classes. So my hope, let's see how it goes, but my hope is to be able to create some really gorgeous platters and plates that we will have at our wedding as the plates that Femi and I at least eat our meals on, likely also the bridal party, but I think it just kind of depends on what my skill set is actually looking like as I get to throwing this clay around. Let's see what the girls have going. Let's see what the girls have going because I don't really know, right? And like I think it gives me personally, I feel like it gives whatever the clay has to give back to me that day. So, baby, we could get plates. Everybody could be eating out of a pasta bowl. I really don't know. But nonetheless, I'm really excited about also having a fun little project that allows me to spend an equal amount of time kind of DIYing specifically for the wedding. And then also crafting something that I'm hoping to pass down as an heirloom to our children. And before that, something that we're able to enjoy. Quite deeply and like in a really intimate kind of memento. Because again, as much control as I desire to have over the actual catering menu, what I think is going to end up happening is there are places where I'm going to have to compromise, but also some places where I can push and like make certain things happen. But I feel like being able to at least control the and curate the like dining experience of like I've made these plates. Like there is nothing on this table that was not done with love with you and me in mind. And I feel like that is really what I'm looking forward to. So the DIYer in me is getting really hype. I'm probably gonna purchase a Cricut. So yeah, like stay tuned, I guess, to see me doing like crafts and stuff. That'll be cool. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that piece. I think that this is really an opportunity for me to kind of exercise trust in a really interesting way because this is the work that I do. I produce, right? Like I produce and I creative direct. Yeah. And I culinary eight. I culinate. And when I'm doing those three things, right? Like I think a lot of them kind of comes from like it's direct from my brain to my execution and it's all in my hands. And this is one of the few places in the world where I am being told you have no you should not be touching any of this shit on your wedding day. And I agree wholeheartedly. But it is going to be, I think, a series of exercises in trust. I'm looking forward to seeing what surprises me from me during this time. And I feel like I'm really looking forward to leaning on the creative talents of other people at this time to pull off the thing that has existed in my brain for years. So that is very exciting. All right. So before we get into the next segment where we'll have Femi join us and we'll be back there and we'll have a new drink and all of the things, I think being forced to be incredibly introspective at this point in time, right? And not just about the feelings that are coming from being engaged, but significantly more so the feelings that are coming up from being a part of a process that I felt like I have not only dreamed about and prayed over, but manifested, but deeply invested into, and also have done so quite publicly. And where I really feel like I get to experience the majority of my joy about my relationship sometimes doesn't even exist in the space of the relationship, but also exists with the women who do reach out, who say that this experience for them has reminded them how tangible and how around the corner love actually is. And I have to say that that has been one of the biggest prides that I've been able to experience during this whole thing, right? In the last year and a half, I think the most fairy tale like aspect of so much of this has been the way that love has become more attainable and more accessible for people who are as deserving and more deserving of this experience than I am. I applaud people who still have their hearts on their sleeves. I applaud and pray for people who are hesitant about the experience of love, either due to a previous heartbreak or, just a current look at like the dating landscape and going, but I still want it. I am applauding the people who are healing from an experience with love and taking the time to be present, to be gentle, to be in community, to be doing the work. I am so excited that I get to be in community with people who are so dedicated to the space of love that you're willing to spend an hour and some change listening to me rant about whatever is going on in the love space in my life. And as I am navigating all of these things, what I feel like I've always owed to myself, and it allows me to feel um, untethered in my relationship to also owing the public and this space and you all, not just the listeners, but all, like literally everyone who has aspirations of love, is to be honest about the things that come up and how complex they are and how murky these things can sometimes be, and also how awesome they are and how fulfilling they can be, and how um, even with how incredible all of these feelings are, I'm not counting on someone else to do that for me, right? The work has been a very internal one and it gets to show up externally. And I think that there is something so incredible about that. And I want to continue to encourage the lovers to do the loving here first. The loving is yours first, baby. The loving is yours first. And then you get to share it. And then you get to share it. And then you get to share it. And that is such an incredible thing when you've been able to arrive at that place and truly feel like you can recognize the difference between a you who has been well loved by you and then allowing a well loved you to be well loved by others. I'm so excited for everybody to be able to experience the sort of lightness that I'm getting to put language to right now. I love you all so much. I'm about to make me and this man a drink, and we are going to pop over to the dinner table for a fun conversation where we're going to get into the deets, y'all, about like the custom ring process, about how Femi felt about the proposal. The girls have some Q&A, some Q's, and some, hopefully we get y'all some A's today, but about what all of the things are, I'm really excited to have Femi as like the first guest ever on the podcast. That's so exciting for me. It really does feel like I am expanding my world and letting that be reflected in the public space. And so this is really cool for me. We're going to go ahead, do the thing. Now's a good time. I feel like I should play some intermission music. You know? No, I don't know. I'm going to come up with a little ditty and I'm going to insert it here. There's a little jingle. Okay. With love and butter. Butter, 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 butter. Butter, 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 butter. No, I don't like it. It's okay. Either way, cut and we'll be right back. Bye. One. No, don't lean too much. Maybe you're leaning close to me because you like to be close to me.
I'm kidding. All right, okay. Baby, I got you.
All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hello, 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 and welcome back to segment 2 of season 2, episode 2 of With Love and Butter, a chef's podcast on self-love and romance and all the food and drinks that get us through it. Hello, I'm your host, Courtney Fletch, recent fiancé to Femi Brinson. Today we are joined by the Femi Brinson, my fiance. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you, baby.
Yes.
Happy
round
to be
of
here.
applause from the audience at home.
Whatever
snaps
little
and
snaps, jazz snaps,
and what you know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. Femi, hi.
Hey, baby.
Hi. I've never had anybody on the podcast before, as you well know.
I know. Yeah.
This is very exciting. These are super exciting times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, okay, well, listen, y'all. I have had the distinct honor of being with this man for the last year and some change, and it has been the most delightful experience of my life. And as we have been, you know, kind of documenting all of the With Love and Butter process in my journey from singlehood to partnership to like walking down the aisle, I really wanted to bring you here so that we could, I think, chat candidly about all of the things that have kind of like occurred here in this span of time. I know the girls want to hear the proposal story and they want to hear it from your POV also, so we will get into that. But also just like hear from you about your your side of that story, because I feel like he has, of course, perspective that I do not on that day, but also what your thoughts were kind of leading up to that, talking about our custom ring journey, which I feel like was so special and really sweet, and then the folks have questions about just your perspective on our relationship in general, and I really just wanted to like bring you here into this space as we're kind of further merging our lives together. And it felt like the appropriate time to kind of bring that here to the pod. So Femi, welcome. Do you have anything that you would like to say to the listeners?
To the people.
Yeah, to the butterers.
To the butterers. I don't know if I have that much to say, but I'm excited to be on your podcast. I've not heard most of your podcast, but I also very much understand the reactions that people give you and the love that people share for you sharing your journey and you bringing language to things that I think are sometimes difficult to communicate. So I'm a special guest. I'm not going to be here often. This is not my space. This is her space. You know what I'm saying? We need less men on podcasts in general, so I'm not trying to add to that. But yeah, I'm excited to talk to you a little bit talk a little bit about our process, our journey, and have a little bit of the drink too. So
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, speaking of which, let's get into let's get into because you've been eyeing it and I know it. Let's get into the what's shaking segment of With Love and Butter. Yeah. So today's drink, babe, is it's inspired by one of our favorites, which is a paper plane. We also are like we're bourbon people. We are bourbon and Campari and like vermouth or Amaro people. We love our drinks to be kind of like bitter. We like them to be a little smoky. We like our drinks to be really hearty and herbal and well rounded. And one of your favorites is the Boulevardier, but a
Correct.
lightened step up from the Boulevardier is the Paper Plane, which is also one of my favorite drinks. It's like the favorite actually of all of my cocktails. So today we have a peach and olive oil Paper Plane.
Ah, I see those little dots on top. It's cool.
So little floats of olive oil have been shaken into the drink. They add a really fun kind of velvety texture. A Paper Plane is 4 parts, pretty straight up, right? So it is your favorite bourbon. You're going to use an Amaro. People use Amaro Nonino or Amaro Montenegro. You're going to use Campari or Aperol, and you're also going to do lemon juice. So we've done all of that, and then I've added in some macerated peaches that I have had sitting in brown sugar, and a little drizzle of olive oil, black pepper, and a little bit of salt. So there's a little bit of like a sort of salty, sweet, like peachy, fruity finish on this drink, and I hope that we really enjoy it because I only did a small taste test. So cheers,
great.
my love.
Cheers.
And there's a small peach down at the bottom.
Ooh. Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's fun.
Oh yeah. That's fun.
It tastes like summer, you guys. It tastes like summer. Okay. So let's get into it. Y'all have already heard on the first part of this episode me talk pretty in depth about my experience from the proposal side. Y'all have also had 2 years at this point of context of me talking about my journey in like life and relationships and all the things. So y'all have hella context about me, but it's pretty rare that you ever get the opportunity to hear other people's context about an experience that I've shared with them. And I know the proposal has been the source of a lot of questions. So I want to kind of open up the floor to you, babe, about just like one, how you were feeling kind of going into the proposal process, the thinking that was kind of in your mind. I feel like we don't hear from men nearly enough about what is kind of being considered as you're coming into the space of deciding, one, why marriage for you? Because marriage isn't for everybody. And then what kind of propelled you to ask? And then what were some of the considerations that you were making as you/we are going into this journey together?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. For as many questions as we've asked each other, I don't know how directly we've asked like, why marriage, but I think for me, like the why marriage is, I really wanted us to take our partnership like to the next level, and to do that under the covering of marriage was something that I think we both valued, and I think we talked much more about marriage than what a wedding would look like before skipping ahead to that kind of process. But I feel like you were my person, and I feel like I might be jumping ahead to some of the questions you've kind of lightly shared with me. But I didn't want to do life without you. I didn't want us to kind of be apart, and I just kind of wanted us to kind of have this understanding, this bond, to always work together, always kind of commit to learning each other. I've heard from a lot of like older people that people in marriages that people often change here and there. That's normal, but like that commitment to kind of run each other, fall in love, and to build was something that was really exciting. So yeah, I was thrilled and excited to think about marrying you and for our future life. And yeah, that's the marriage question. Should I like move?
Yeah, you're welcome to hop into the proposal piece.
Yes. So proposal, I sneakily and unsneakily tried to ask a lot of questions about what you wanted. And I don't know that we necessarily would have. The proposal that I think we ultimately went with, or I guess I ultimately went with, was not what I might have imagined originally, but you wanted something intimate. You wanted to be able to hear the words that I was saying, which is ironic because we both blacked out, basically. You wanted it to feel like us. And we wanted it to, I don't think either one of us wanted it to kind of go on or to linger. Like we both knew we wanted to do it somewhat soon, when we kind of were talking about more of the details.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what I initially thought you wanted. And as I kind of thought through some ideas here and there, I was like, oh, maybe at a restaurant or maybe at an event. We had a lot of like family events coming up. But I ultimately thought about doing it here in the house. And I was trying to get you out of the house for like 3 weekends straight.
And y'all, I don't be leaving.
She don't. She's a homebody and she's not. It's really interesting. I'm like, you need to be gone for at least 2 hours, and she would like pop out and pop back in. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you gotta pop out. And that was a lot of kind of like trying to figure out the proposal, but the actual proposal, I had to finally got on the ring. Mm-hmm. It was hidden somewhere downstairs. I won't tell you where because I can't blow up my
you got to keep your spots. Okay.
And you were out of the house, and I knew you were going to be out of the house getting drinks with one of your girlfriends, and also getting your nails done. Got lucky on that one. I had varied the timing of sending nail money just to keep her on her toes because I knew if I started doing it too much or too little, she would know. But she was out of the house in Buckhead. I'm a little bit away from where we are in Atlanta. And I was like, I'll just meet you out for dinner. Like, go ahead and enjoy your time out.
Do your girl thing.
Do your girl things. You actually go ahead and Uber up there. Or no, you drove out there. I was like, but I'll Uber out there and I'll meet you. And I'll drive the car. Yeah, just go have fun. And as soon as she kind of left the house that day, I'd already been running some errands earlier in the day. I just kind of like went into go mode. So organizing the house, cleaning things up, kind of separating and making some space for things. Some rose petals up our stairs, some flowers in our living room. And I ultimately chose home here because it felt like us. Like there's not a place that feels more like us than the space that you and I, and you in particular, have poured so much love into to be a space for us.
That's like literally verbatim what I said, and like
really?
I know you weren't here.
Wait, you said it in the earlier part too?
I like literally said I said exactly
we
that.
Locked in. So yeah, but it just made so much sense. So got the house all set up, got a little camera set up because you were really big on making sure to kind of be able to hear back what I said too. And we're out at dinner, and I've never wanted a dinner to like end so fast. Like I think the woman or the waitress offered us dessert. I was like, "No, we good." And I did not remember the first time. I was like, "She was like, huh?"
I was like, "Damn, okay." Like I
guess we got cookies at home. We did have cookies at home too.
We did have cookies at home.
So we're on the way home. I'm trying to figure out like what songs to kind of like set the mood because I know what song we're gonna play when we get in the house. It's our song. Someone over here is playing lusty music. I'm not gonna say who. I'm not gonna say what. But we get home. And I finally, I sit in the car for a little bit because I got to get things set up. Like, I got to turn lights on. Actually, it wasn't even lights, but I had to set up music. I had to make sure that the camera was recording. And we walk in the house. She hears in a sense of mood. She's not yet super suspicious yet. She sees that I've moved some of the shoes from the doorway. And she turns.
Like, Big Daddy's been cleaning.
She's like, oh, that's cool.
That's great. Like, I love that, right? Like, he's
and I do
he's a very equal contributor to the cleaning. Like,
we don't really clean that area.
Yeah, like shoes are shoes, you know? So it's like, okay, we don't really have like a formal place to land them. They just exist. And wherever the shoes are is where they be. And so I was getting ready to go over there to take my shoes off. And my shoes are not there. Like, none of the shoes are there. And then I look, and there's rose petals.
Yes,
and I was like,
on the stairs.
Yes.
And we start walking up the stairs. I think it took her like 3 or 4 stairs to kind of like be like, oh, there's rose petals everywhere. You didn't just drop some rose petals. And then halfway up the stairs, I think she starts to understand what's about to happen. And I think it was actually on the recording. I'm like, bro, you have to hold it together. You can't start crying because then it's going to be a mess. I have things I need to say to you. So we finally made it upstairs. I tried to adjust the camera and a mic. It did not work, but we still got some good audio.
We got the audio.
I got down on one knee, had some points that I wanted to get out. I kind of blacked out, but I got most of them out. And then eventually, after she kept kissing me, she said yes. I was like, you got to answer the question, bro.
And I said yes.
She said yes. So that's a proposal story.
Are y'all surprised?
Yeah. But the day was an incredible day. I talked to both of her parents that day as well. She purposely didn't want me to have too much time between asking her mom and proposing. She's like, my mom's going to ruin it. Like, she'll know. So I got a chance to talk to both of them. I recorded both of them just so you have it for us. And then, we finally saw the ring that we had been kind of collabing on for a little bit with some slight changes. A couple of creative
touches, which I really loved.
Yeah.
So let's actually get into the ring process, right? Because I think that what has been the most surprising for people to hear and understand about the way that we approached engagement is, one, how much I knew.
Yeah.
fruit flies. I'm sorry, but we, it's the summertime. It's fine. Okay, everybody has them. But one of the things that has, I think, surprised people the most is we've been talking about our journey with either friends or just kind of casually chatting about it online here and there, was how much I knew about the ring, or at least the first iteration of the ring. And I know that there are a lot of people who do not, who make the decision to not be involved in the ring design process. It's just like, hey, I'm sending you some inspo, and then I want you, the ring buyer, my partner, to do it that way. And that wasn't necessarily our approach. When we did go to look at rings for the very first time in April of last year, it was just so that we could kind of get feelers for what we were even interested in. Like, I want to know what I like. I want to know what you like. What do we like for me? What do we like for you? We looked at wedding bands for the first time together at that time too, which was really cool. So everybody's kind of getting an idea of like, what do we value in the jewelry selection process? And then I think from there, we got, I think, significantly clearer as, time went on about like, okay, look, what do we like? What do we not like? Kind of openly gathering inspiration and like sharing it, all of the things.
Yeah.
And then as we kind of resumed the conversation in October of last year, was it October? Maybe it's September.
I think it was September.
Around September, we're starting to like talk about rings again, and we're like, hey, let's book some consultations with some local jewelers. Let's go see some stuff. And as we're in that process, this is very funny, but one of Femi's friends from grad school ends up going over to lead a custom jewelry company called Wove. Yeah. And that was just such an insane thing because, like, from curiosity, it's like, oh my gosh, well, I want to see what she's up to. I want to support this business. Like, what's up with that? Like, let's figure out what Wove is all about. Yeah. And so as we kind of started that process of, like, even just our early research, something that we found that had been kind of a frustrating point for us, but mainly me, but, like, frustrating for you because I'm not getting what I want. Yeah. Is to be
that's a funny ass sentence. It's true
and accurate,
whatever she wants.
But we're looking at these. We're doing the consultations that are local here to Atlanta, and we're not able to actually see any of the rings on my finger. And a large part of that was because of the size. So I'm like an 8.5, and most rings are a size 6. Max size 7. And so I couldn't see a setting in gold. I couldn't see a setting that actually had the stone in it. I couldn't see, there was a lot that I could not see.
And we couldn't see.
That we couldn't see. And it was a very frustrating experience. So neither of us is able to understand what this investment is going to look like. And that was kind of an agitating piece of the experience. And then Wove kind of cut right through that noise with the solution of a replica, which I thought was really cool. So we went through the consultation piece with Jessie, who was amazing. Yeah. And so we have a first phone call with her, and we're just kind of chatting through like, what do you want? What do I want for the ring? What do we want for the ring? What do we want it to look like? We send through some inspo. And then the conversation kind of goes from there. Now, from that point on, after the first phone call, I am not involved anymore. Like I'm out of it after the first one. I send my inspo through. I'm like, hey, I think there's a style that I kind of really like. I want it to feel kind of like vintage and like it could be an heirloom as it ages. And those were some of the things I knew were really important to me. I wanted a sort of sentimental, dainty quality. And Femi, of course, had other things that he was looking for from the ring. What were some of those things?
Well, I don't think they were super different. I think to back up even a little bit, so I guess like now we're in September, but before when we had looked at rings, I had an understanding of the things that you liked. Like you'd shared some inspo, and I don't think it's like that different than I think how a lot of my friends and couples approach it. Like, oh, I know she kind of wants this. I know it's this type of cut. I know this is something she doesn't want. And I had that understanding. I think I knew that you wanted it to be kind of vintage. I knew you wanted it to be unique. And some of like the detailing on your ring was something that you were really, really focused on and wanted. So I think after the first a couple of inspo pieces and sketches, I think I probably could have like gotten pretty close. But I think for something like this, where it's one of our first things that we're doing together, this ring is going to be, a big part of our life and journey, hopefully for the rest of our lives, right? Like I want this to be something that's perfect, that you absolutely want. And I didn't mind getting a little bit of help from you to kind of make sure that's where it kind of landed. So Yeah, I think the things that I knew were like the vintage quality. I knew the kind of cut you wanted. I don't think you knew anything about even. And I think I can say this because it's more transparent, but like she still doesn't really know the price. Don't doesn't really need to, and I don't think she
It's not
even
my
really
business.
specified the size. Right? Like I think we had an idea of the types of cuts we wanted, and that was that. So, yeah.
So, y'all, Femi was keeping secrets, but in a very fun way. And it was exactly what I wanted, right? Like, I literally got exactly what I wanted. Everything that we saw represented in these sketches and in the replica was so true to form, represented in the final ring, with the exception of some touches that Femi added that were personal and creative touches that just changed ever so slightly the way that the ring actually is like sitting on my finger and things of that sort. But
And a little inscription in the band
yeah,
that is for us. That I don't think we told
I'm
anyone.
not sharing. Yeah, so it's not y'all
I'm not
business.
sharing.
That's not y'all
But it's
business.
something
But it's
personal
just
for us.
it's just one of our little things. And that was such a great experience. And I think what's really shocked so many people was how empowering it was to collaborate with you on this ring, right? I will be wearing this for the rest of my life, and handing it down to grandchildren or whatever. I don't really know what that ends up meaning, but I'm holding on to this thing for a very, 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 very long time. And while I'm doing that, I wanted something that I think was really important to me is I wanted to see you in the ring too. And so I was really pleased with the creative choices that you took because it's not just, oh, Courtney's made a series of choices and then Femi is executing on those choices. We were collaborating on those choices and then you carried it across the finish line with really thoughtful touches. And I feel like that's one of the more romantic things about this process. Obviously, proposal is like a huge part of that, right? But when I'm looking back on all of this, the consideration that's present in our relationship, the thoughtfulness that's there, the ability to step outside of like our current desires and like really think about what our partner all like wants and being able to prioritize that was huge. And I think it was deeply reflected in the process with Wove. And they were really great champions of like making sure that while we're getting all the things that we want, this diamond ain't gonna fall out.
Yeah, security.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Jesse was
Jessie,
very
yeah.
on it.
She vetoed one of the things I was thinking about changing, and she's like, "That's not going to work." And I respect that, right? Like, so they're not just doing whatever makes the client happy; like they're trying to make the client successful. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, like wildly cool, right?
Yeah.
And also, I think I didn't realize how accessible customization kind of could be, and that was really the thing that blew my mind about Wove. I think throughout the entire process was you're getting a high level of consultation, and at the same time, you are getting like exactly what you want from the process. But you are getting it at a price point that makes a lot of sense for you.
I was about to be like, can I be when we say accessible, one, just like the ease of the process was super easy. But also when you do your own research and understand, whoever's buying the rings or the ring buyer, the situation, understanding like costs and trade-offs, like was a very easy decision for me in the end, besides going to one of the jewelers, between going to one of the jewelers that we had seen before that maybe a little bit less customization and Wove. Like it made a lot of sense for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the funnier piece was that we saw the ring back in like November of last year, and the girls don't even know that. It was a very fun little secret, and I only told so many people in post of being engaged that I had even seen the ring beforehand.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that experience, largely because I felt like it not only solved the problem that we had of not being able to envision what the ring was going to look like on my finger, being able to try said ring on and really experience it, but we got to really essentially date our ring.
And to take a
together.
step back, a replica of the ring, not
A
the
replica.
exact same one.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So
no, like a
she
replica.
really was out of the process in September. But part of what we saw from Wove, why we were excited, one, besides being run by a former friend of mine, or a friend of mine, Simone, shout out to Simone, was that they gave a replica that she'd be able to see on her finger. So she saw the first replica, and I guess the only replica in November, before one of our trips, a work trip for me, and then we got to get
we
ready
were
to
just
tag along.
riding around in
But
Portugal.
it was a replica, so she didn't see the real thing. I ain't messed that up, but the replica is a big part of why we wanted to go with Wove, so we wanted to make sure she still liked it.
Yeah, and I loved it. And I think it just allowed me to kind of figure out what it looked like in my day-to-day and my lifestyle. And like, as I'm, running around the kitchen, like I am someone who, if I'm doing deep cooking, yes, I'm going to take my jewelry off. But if I'm just like lightly sauteing, I want to make sure that this thing can stand up to a little bit of rough and tumble. And it is. And it's very like lifestyle compatible for me, but I'm glad that we were able to figure that out kind of in the upfront, and then be confident in the investment that you/we were making. So that was really like a joy. Wove has been an incredible custom jewelry partner. We're going to be making our wedding bands with Wove as well, so we're actually going to like film that process, and then share it as that's kind of ongoing. But I'm really looking forward to weaving Wove into the rest of our lives. That was good. That was good. Okay, period. We've talked about the ring process. We've talked about the proposal process. Now let's get into what I feel like y'all are likely most curious about, which is Femi's point of view on our relationship. And I feel like, while you got him here, let's ask the juicy questiones.
You said they were easy.
They are, but they're also juicy.
All right, let's go.
Okay. So someone wants to know. I wish I had kept like a little cue card so I knew who it was.
Yeah.
Like so-and-so from Nebraska wants to know. But someone is curious about what was your experience like first meeting me and ultimately deciding to pursue a relationship?
Yeah. So first time I met you was in Austin, Texas at a conference. And you know this, but like early on she didn't. But like I had seen her. So I'd seen her from social media before. And I saw her on the conference floor, but I wasn't 100% sure it was her. So I didn't like approach you at first. But I saw you, I was like, I think that's Courtney. I was going around. She's working. We're both there for work, right? Like at that point, you're there for the startup you're working for. I'm there for the big tech company I'm working for. So I didn't like necessarily interrupt or anything. But I saw you later on the floor, and you were with a good friend of mine, which is just such a funny small world.
Our boy Ron. Yeah.
But I think like one thing that I was initially struck by is like, oh, this woman is the exact same in real life as she kind of is online. Like sometimes there's a little bit of performance, which is okay. I think sometimes actually is maybe a hot take, but like, yeah, I think I was very much. I mean, you caught me looking, look at her, you know what I'm saying? But like, very open person, clearly very beloved by the people who are around you in your community. Ron was clearly like speaking highly of you. Was like, oh, this is my girl Courtney, you know what I'm saying? So that's like the first part of meeting you, but I think really like the other like more meeting you for real is like our first date.
Yeah.
I was very nervous. I almost left my wallet. I thought I left my wallet at home. Like I got out of the car, out of valet, did the little checking your pockets thing. I didn't have it. I was a little nervous. I'm going off track, but like I got up the stairs. And I think, like, I was super nervous.
He didn't want to be a TikTok story.
I didn't want to be a TikTok story. Like, oh, this man asked me out on a date and didn't bring his wallet. Trying to cash up you at the table or something. I didn't want to do that. But eventually found my wallet, found all the things. And I think I was immediately struck by, like, how comfortable we were. Like, I'm trying to play it cool after kind of coming up the stairs. And a man was already in your face because this is Atlanta. But
y'all, I forgot.
Yeah.
I don't think I mentioned that briefly, like in a newsletter or something, but I kind of forgot to like really expound on that. So like we're at the restaurant, we're at Bar Margot, and I'm already here. I'd gotten there early because I was nervous, and I was like, he seems real prompt. Which is such a funny thing to say about you,
especially
now. But like, if you're ever late, it's because of me. So like, right? Yeah. But he's still very prompt as a man, as a person. Okay. And I felt like I was like, there's just like this sense of like, I either really want to be his friend or we're gonna work out so well. Like we're either gonna like always be together or we're gonna always be together. And it felt like that because I remember being so excited about you when I ran across you on Hinge again. And I was like, oh my God, like, I remember you from conference. Like, hey, what's up? Like, I was so geeked. And I was like, if anything, like, I've made a really great friend. And,
I could tell you that was part of the thing. I was like, let me redirect it. I had to make sure it wasn't just friendly.
Yeah.
Lovingly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I was like, oh, this is great, right? Like, we've got all these really cool mutual friends. Like, all of my best people who like know him, right? Like it's that says something to me about like the type of person that you are. All my favorite people are your favorite people also, and you are amongst their favorite people, and I love that. So I was just like, okay, like this is gonna be great. But I was a little nervous, and I'm never nervous like going into these sorts of interactions. I was like, I'm really like level-headed and cool and shit, you know what I mean? But there was something about you that I think was just sort of like, it was a little disconcerting, but in a really fun way, because it was very anticipatory. So anyway, I'm there at the place. I'm early. I'm sitting kind of up on like the ledge where you can kind of see where everybody is coming in at.
People watching.
I'm doing a little bit of people watching, but I'm also on my phone, and I texted him. I'm like, hey, I'm a little early. Please take your time getting here. Like, I'm early. It has nothing to do with you. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just sitting, and I'm in my phone, and I'm scrolling through TikTok, and I'm seeing whatever I'm seeing. And some man comes up. Now, I saw him coming from like the side, and you kind of do like you do like a cute little smile. But nigga, I'm not looking for you. Like, you're not why I'm here, bro. And I was like, that would be so crazy if this man comes up to me, and at the same time, Femi also comes up. Like, that would be so insane. He's like, he's gonna think that I'm macking all throughout Atlanta. Like, that would be so insane. No.
She'd even believe that, bro. You see her face?
But anyway, so I'm standing there and I'm trying to tell him, like, yeah, like I'm seeing someone. Like, I'm going full in with the lie. Because I was like, I want you out of my face as quickly as possible. You were never, one, you were never my type. And then two, don't be rude, okay? I'm clearly here for a date. So I am just sitting there trying to, like, keep this conversation brief. And here comes Femi up the stairs. And I go instinctively almost, but also not instinctively. It shocked me when it came out. I was like, oh, there's my guy. Femi comes up. We hug. There's the exchange of like, oh, no disrespect,
yeah, you good,
brother.
bro.
Da.
Yeah.
That thing, whatever.
It's a black
He
man
said
greeting.
something about, the other guy said something about me smelling good. Was that it?
I didn't hear that, but
no, he said that
before.
to me,
Yeah.
and I guess I was telling him, I was like, I don't know. He said I smell good. What you think? And like hit him with the hair flip so that he could really get in there. You know what I mean? And ingratiate the nostril, and yeah, and like but there was it was flirtatious, yes, and also there was a really like comforting, sort of friendly banter that was kind of already existing in the space.
From jump.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
All right. Sorry. I wanted to give that color to the space.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's most of the answer, though. Like, the question was like, how did I feel upon meeting you? But there was a lot of comfort, I think, by the time we sat down, which I was not really expecting. Mm-hmm. And we just got more and more comfortable. And even our waitress, who we're like now really good friends with, like says that even when she sees us. Like I'd seen her like a couple weeks later when I took a friend there, which I won't get into because we're trying to keep this brief. Mm-hmm. But even that, she was like, y'all looked real comfortable. Like, y'all were, I served y'all for basically like 4 hours. And an hour, I left y'all alone because y'all just looked like y'all were enjoying yourselves. So,
yeah, we were. Yeah. Okay. That's a great answer, baby. All right. When did you know that I was the one? I don't think I know the answer to this question.
Yeah. I don't even know. So as I think about this, I don't know that there's a particular specific date, but I remember what I was thinking in my head, which was, this is either immediately after kind of like the second date, like after a second set of dates, because it was like
that time.
It was supposed to be like a week, and it ended up being like
21 days, yeah.
But I remember in that moment realizing how early we were in our process in our dating, and also being like really maybe worried about what it would look like if you weren't in my life anymore. And like, we were so early, and I realized like that the rational part of myself is saying that, and I was like, my instinct was to kind of like close up a little bit, just be like, you need to slow this down, like make sure you don't get hurt, make sure you protect yourself, like maybe control the process a little bit. But realizing that if this didn't work out, I'd be hurt, but realizing I wanted to also like open up as much as I could just to give us the best shot. And because vulnerability and communication was such a big part of us, that I wanted us to kind of keep that going. So like that realization of like what you meant to me in that moment, and then what I wanted you to continue being for me, and how I wanted to show up to make sure that you were supported, that we were supported, was when I started realizing I was like, okay, this is going to be very different. And I think I even told my parents and close friends that too, like quite early, right? Like, I'm West African. My mom's from Benin, Yoruba. Like, it was just Femi. So anyone who's watching this who might be familiar with our set knows, like, tell your mother, 2 months in, not even like, hey, I
Not
want you to meet
even.
this woman is crazy work. So yeah, I was
Yeah.
very kind of confident on that. My mom had kind of overheard conversations here and there because I was back at my parents' place for a little bit, and upon meeting you, also agreed with like kind of how I was like, this is different. So yeah, those are like some of the signs that it was very clearly going to be different. That this was my person. And every conversation we had after that was just confirmation of that. We continued to build. We continued to be curious. We bought like a book that was like 100 questions to ask for engagement. Like we were really deeply doing work, and I felt like that was just all confirmation from some of the early signs that we had.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think the drive back, like I knew because we were already official at this point in time. There were two things for me, and they both happened in the car. But the drive back or back to Atlanta from Charlotte, which is where I was living at the time, where we had that month in between our first date and our second date. The drive down, and I had like baked. I'd
Oh yeah,
baked
you made
you
that
a
cake.
cake.
Yeah, flip that hair.
And I knew then, I was like, oh, these have become really, really big feelings in a way that I was not. It's not that I was not expecting it. It wasn't even that I was really surprised by it.
Yeah.
There was a piece that I think I had about the way that I felt comfortable to move with you that I think really solidified for me. You're either coming down here or you're leaving Atlanta and you're changed. And that just is what it is, right? And you're going to have to be okay with like whatever comes out of this trip. And I remember that I was supposed to try to record a podcast episode before that. I was like, I don't know why, but I feel like I come back from Atlanta and the entire content of this podcast is different. And I felt like in advance, I was kind of like grieving that change. Like I was like, wait, I have a final moment. I have a thing to say to the girls before I'm out, like I have something to say. Okay, the South has something to say. And I felt like very, very strongly about my relationship to that. And there was so much peace over it. I couldn't like get the podcast situation together in time. Like the timing was just crazy. I was trying to do a lot before being away for like 10 days. And, with every day that we had like spent together, I was like, okay, like I feel so at home with this person. Like I am really like in it with you. And I did not mind showing up and being really open about like, hey, here's what I want. And also here's how you make me feel. And here's what I'm willing to do to show my love for you. Like it just all kind of felt like it fell like dominoes into place really, really quickly. And yeah, the drive down, I think was like, I spent those 3.5 hours on the road. Like, Courtney, you got to be okay with like letting the love happen if that's where you are. And it happened exactly that way. And then by the time that I left, I remember I cried like most of the ride back home. I was like, but you never recorded the podcast. Like you never, I was like, you're going to go back and you've got to address this gigantic change. Cause I knew then, but I didn't have language for the seriousness of what we had just kind of committed to.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am getting ready to do the rest of my life with this person. And I can't believe that I feel good about saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
it was very
so
different.
early in, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just like, wait, what's going on here? And I feel like, yeah, there were so many confirmations from us, but also our community and people that we love and trust that made it just kind of make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little Pookie.
All right, she's buttering me up for another tough question.
Okay.
I'm sure. What's up?
Okay, I like this question. This is a good one. I would hope I liked it. I picked them from the people that sent questions. Okay. So, Femi.
Yes, Courtney.
Answer for the people at home. How has this relationship, or what has this relationship revealed to you about yourself?
That's a good one. What has this relationship revealed to me about myself? I think I had an inkling of this, but I think it's revealed to me how seriously I take the leading, the building, the supporting of like our love and community, and the ways that we set up like support structures for ourselves, show up for our people, and show up for each other. Like I think I knew that these are things I wanted to be as a husband one day, but I don't think I had this kind of understanding or this type of desire to kind of like continuously find ways to improve. Like, I think what was very early on in a relationship. So I have a call with like a couple of my guys. We try to do them every 2 weeks, but it's like our accountability check. We do like a bunch of things. I won't go all into it, but like health and fitness and just like how things are going at work and relationships. And I remember talking to them the day after our first date because we do them on Mondays. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to show up quite differently. Like, I'm gonna have to be thoughtful about how I show up to make sure I have this person supported. So I think it's just kind of showed me another gear that I have, and I'm excited to keep exploring that with you and figuring out ways that I can show up. But I know I might not always have the right answer. I might not always have the knowledge to like figure out how to show up for things like, for instance, like with your cooking work and your culinary production work. But like, I'm committed to learning to figure out ways that can make your life better and easier. And yeah, that's something I just didn't know was like fully there. And I'm excited to keep developing that. Yeah.
I also want to answer this question now because I'm like,
Yeah, put yourself in the hot seat too.
Yeah, let me get warm. So, I think, gosh, I feel like you've taught me a lot. Like, this relationship has taught me a lot, and then also like individually, you have taught me a lot. And I think that I felt like I had kind of learned all that I thought was worth learning about love. And then you came through and kind of you have been my favorite thinking partner in the world. I did not think I liked thinking this much with anybody at all. Shit, with myself, the way that I love thinking with you. And I think that there's something about knowing that there is a place that has like little to no judgment, and oftentimes just straight up no judgment, right? But then also a level of like curiosity, critical thinking, pushback, right? Like I could always use the challenge. And you arrive there with me, one, so effortlessly, but then two, I think that one of the biggest gifts that I think you've given me is the space to land my, so what you have given me is the space to land my very big feelings, and for them to not feel so big, but actually for them to feel very manageable. You have made me feel like I am the easiest person in the world to love. And I feel like that is a testament to your patience, to your kindness, to your upbringing. It is a reflection of the way that you think, the way that you maneuver through the world. It is evident in your other relationships with your friends and with your family. Like, what I get from you is the highest level of the way that you move through everything else. You are the most strategic thinker that I know. You are the most curious person that I know. Your types of consideration are so grounded in what is good for other people. And then you figure out where you can match that bar. And it has made me believe in the goodness of people again. And I really love that. And there are so many things in you that I see that I want to model back and like mirror back to you, because you've exposed me to the possibility of those things. And I feel like if for nothing else, you've expanded my imagination about what love could look like, and also about what being loved could look like.
Mm-hmm. Trying to make me blush and cry all at once.
Yeah,
Thank
maybe.
You, Courtney.
You're welcome, Femi. Yeah, I love you.
I love you too.
Oh, give me a kiss. Petite beso. Okay, hold on. Wow. Let me see. I don't want your lips brown. Y'all know I'm a brown girl. Okay. Okay. This is the last question, because one, is getting dark and we need to eat dinner, and two, because darkness had nothing to do with the dinner, but it is getting late and also dark. We're losing light and we need to eat a meal.
She getting hungry.
Yes. And so the last question here is, how has the growth or evolution from single and thriving to coupled and thriving been? Has it been hard, and what has challenged you the most?
I think that was a question for you.
You didn't think you were single and thriving? Is that the part you don't identify with? Oh, no. How is the evolution been? Like, do you feel like you've been, because I think what complicates it is like single and thriving to couple and thriving, but like, how has it been for you in the transition from singleness to deep couplehood? Because we kind of like flew into it.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to be in like a relationship, right? Like in the times when I think about like the single period of my life, I think there was a lot of growth and learning, and I felt like sometimes when I was in relationships, I would lose that piece of myself and that curiosity about myself. But that's not changed here. So I struggle with answering that question in like a more meaningful or deeper way because like I don't feel like I've lost anything. But like I don't know, the evolution has just been I get to think with the person I like to think with the most. I get to spend the time with the person I want to spend the time with the most. And we still are challenging ourselves to have that growth and to have that independence. So, you know, we try to give each other space. We try to come together and all of that. So, yeah, I think that's my more succinct answer. I don't know how much more I've got.
Yeah, it's a good answer. Yeah, it is. I feel like I should answer it too. Y'all have heard me talk about this before. This won't surprise you either, babe. But I think maybe one of the more challenging aspects of the transition from like serial singleness to deep partnership, because that's what it felt like. Like almost immediately we were like jumping in. I think was feeling like there was permission to keep parts of yourself to yourself and like being honest and transparent about that, right? Like I think something that I learned kind of early in was like I really value my alone time, but I felt like, oh, when you're living with somebody, like you do not have access to that anymore. Like you just kind of have to like blend, right? And like now you're in the things, and like I enjoy spending time with this person so much. Like he's my favorite person in the whole wide world. And also it's like I think I miss this sense of unbelonging, right? Not in the sense that I don't want to belong to you, but there were times where like I'd go days without speaking to anybody if they would let me in my home. And now I'm like, I'm doing my best days in front of someone else. I'm doing my worst days in front of someone else. I am having my period in front of someone else. I am having tummy aches in front of someone else. I am, trying to eat girl dinners where it's Captain Crunch and Cookie Crisp in front of someone else. And
no judgment,
but I also, you feel, I think sometimes this sense of desire to always be your best self in partnership. And I don't think that people talk enough about the ways that, unless you're super confident in showing up all the time with someone or around someone, and I even think that that's the difference between people who have siblings and don't. I'm an only child. I do not know what it is like to share deep space with anyone who is not my parent. And so nobody else has ever seen me go through the rest of my life without kind of constant feedback or, oh my gosh, this little fly. I don't even think I got it.
Didn't.
But
okay,
I hope
though.
he just dies.
The fruit fly.
The fruit fly. Anyway, I was saying before I got distracted by Le Fly was that I think that, if you are practiced in, doing life in front of and around other people, it is absolutely an easier adjustment potentially, right? And then you just figure out how to merge the other aspects of life with someone. But when it is a completely new thing for you, I feel like that's honestly where I feel like I've struggled the most. And I think it colored my ability to receive love at one point in time where I felt like, man, like I must be so unlovable if I feel like I have to kind of squirrel away the pieces of me that I felt like I've always just engaged with in private. And I think a lot of what we've done the work of doing, and you've assured me that it's okay to do this, is be like, I need a day. I need some time.
Yep.
I don't have it to be like, a beat today. Like she's not there. And being able to kind of call that out, I think has been like, I've had to become a significantly better communicator as a result of our relationship, and communicate about not just the stuff that's fluffy and sexy and flowery and that you think makes you a good communicator, but communicating about, I have cramps and she's not mentally available today. And letting that be okay. Like letting it live like a fact, and not something to place judgment on, I think has really done like a world of difference about my perspective just in general. And yeah, I think I would have loved to have heard more women talking about that. More people generally, but like for myself as a woman, hearing more women talk about like what are some of the transitions that you're going through. The more time you spend by yourself, the easier it gets to not have to explain what you need to anybody. And now suddenly here's someone I want to explain all my things to, but I don't necessarily always have the language. It's been a huge shift. So yeah, I'd say that if anything, that's been the hardest part. Yeah, does that make sense?
That's a great answer. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Y'all, let's get into, because we're done with the cues.
Okay.
For Femi. But there has been a question, I think, for the two of us, which is talking about like what our hopes and dreams are for our upcoming marriage. Wedding stuff aside, I like gave a little bit of thoughts on like wedding planning.
Okay.
Mainly food, just like thoughts I have on food and like the vision for that.
Drinks.
That's so important to me. But like when we're thinking beyond the big day and like into our marriage, are there hopes and like desires that you kind of have for the vision of the future of us?
Yeah. I think the commitment to us improving as a unit consistently and continually, like us still doing the work, us still being curious. I think right now we have this benefit of knowing that like we're early in our journey, and despite the fact that we've made this decision to be engaged, getting married, we know there's a lot of work to do. Like we're being active and like seeking out like premarital counseling. Like we're both still in our own therapy. We know there's a lot to learn. So I hope that we continue to have that spirit of curiosity and like wanting to develop. And then I also think we hope to continue to do that individually for ourselves, right? Like, I think it can be very easy to lose yourself in relationships sometimes. I think I've expressed concerns of that in my previous life too, and so have you. So I hope that we still commit to doing that. And I hope that we continue to kind of like sow seeds of love in our community and have that love return back. We've been very intentional with, we have making sure we have energy to do that. Sometimes when we don't have it, we like make sure to kind of show up for those people because it's important. And we know that we're not going to get through this marriage and this life by ourselves. And even just to some extent, like together, right? Like we need support. We need that grounding, that perspective. Those people showing up for us when we're unable to show up for ourselves. So yeah, those are like three of the things that I hope that we continue to have going forward. And I have no doubt that we're going to be able to do that. But it's good for us to remember that, to be cautious or cognizant of like the investments and the changes that we're making.
All right. So my hopes for our marriage, for our future together, for our future, for the future. One of the things I think I'm most looking forward to is us having more fun together. Yeah. I think that we're very sweet, fun-loving people, but I don't think that either of us has had the best relationship to baked in fun like in our lives. Okay. And we're quite serious in like the day-to-day as we move through the world. I'm looking forward to us being more intentional about having true fun together. Like, and fun comes from a lot of different things. Y'all have actually probably heard me talk about this before, where I feel like I have this desire to be more fun, and asking the question of like what fun actually is. And fun isn't just like activities, but I think there is a sense of play that we both encourage each other to come back to. And our inner children both feel really safe here. And so making more room for those kids to be able to experience life through that lens. And I think that's something that we've encouraged a lot, throughout the relationship. But I think now also just like having more of the ability to do that, I think is going to be like a really big one for us. Our community, I love our people so much. Yeah. I love our people so much. And it's kind of been funny, interesting, that there was almost an immediate sort of sharing of people from early in. So yes, we have our mutual friends, but then also there's been this really beautiful exchange of relationships between the people that we love and the people that, like love each other and then also love us. And the way that we've been brought into community has been incredible, but we also do a lot of work to create community too. And that's the piece that I think I'm looking forward to so much. Like, I can't wait to be the next couple's anchor. Yeah. And so we're solid and we allow them to continue to be solid too. I feel like love really is an ecosystem. And so the work that we are doing of ecosystemic betterment is really doing numbers, I think, on my heart, not just from the romantic sense, but also from the platonic one. And I think lastly, I'm really looking forward to like starting a family with you. I'm really looking forward to it. It feels crazy because I feel like I'd be a teen mom if I got pregnant like right now. That sounds crazy. I'm 29. I'll be 30 very soon. But there's a part of me that still feels like, well, I'm just a baby.
She's just a girl.
I'm just a girl. But at the same time, there is this piece of me that is so excited to pass down all of the love that I've been able to receive here in this relationship and be able to make it easy for another tiny human being and a set of tiny human beings. Like, I never really saw myself as somebody who was like going to be like, I thought I was going to be like hands down girl mom. And I'm now looking at you and I'm going, man, what an honor it would be to raise more, you know? And as I think about that, I think that there's just like, there's a lot of joy, there's a lot of pride, there is a lot of sense of responsibility and like duty. And I hate it when people use the word legacy and throw it around kind of casually. But our legacy of love specifically, and our story of love is something that I'm really looking forward to passing down to tiny humans, and across, to tiny humans who are not ours.
Right.
And really being involved in other children's lives. We both have such a love for children. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I think it's going to be great. I know you're going to be an incredible father, and you're already an incredible partner. And I think we're just going to have a blast together, having fun, staying curious, keeping open minds, prioritizing the self and then also prioritizing our community. So that's like what I'm really geeked about, and eating good food and having good drinks and, traveling to fun and interesting places. I think all those pieces feel inherent to the life that we're building. But every so often I like to call them out explicitly. Yeah. Hey, my babies. So I had closed down the recording stuff and everything, and then forgot to remind y'all about what the pairings for today's episode are. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. So today's meal pairing is a steak au poivre, okay, with French fries. So steak frites with an au poivre sauce. If you are not familiar with au poivre, I love saying it. It just means of pepper. It's a peppercorn sauce made with sherry and sherry wine, and a little bit of heavy cream and some beef stock and a little bit of Worcestershire. And of course, a bunch of peppercorns, ground black peppercorns, or you can use green peppercorns. Really lovely with steak. We absolutely loved it. I based our ribeye. I have a big old 2.5-inch thick ribeye. She is a thick girl. But you give it like a good hard sear with salt and pepper on both sides, or actually on all sides, with a little bit of olive oil in the pan, or you just let it like straight up render in a cast iron. And then you baste it with a little bit of butter and rosemary and thyme, and also whole cloves of garlic. It was absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious. And then just some frozen French fries. Baby, ain't nobody got time to be cutting up potatoes for real. Okay. But some frozen Frenchies, and then you toss them in a quick little like herb, garlic, butter parm situation, and a little bit of truffle oil as well. Absolutely stunning. And we actually have been drinking a lot of white wine with our red meat. I don't recommend it to other people, but it has been great for me. And we've been really into Portuguese wine, white wine, Vinho Verde, which is a green wine, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And it's really crisp, and it's got a little bit of like a sparkle on the back end. And it's really refreshing and like lovely, and it pairs really well with also really heavy foods. So that is the wine pairing, the meal pairing. We've got the peach and olive oil and black pepper paper plane. We're finna re-up. And do we have a song pairing for today? I used In a Sentimental Mood.
Oh, wow.
I think it is In a Sentimental Mood.
Probably.
Well, then it's In a Sentimental Mood by Duke Ellington and John Coltrane. Yeah. All right. Really signing off this time. Again, if you're not already subscribed on YouTube, please be sure to do so. Baby girl is monetized, and we could use every single cent from AdSense. I thank you so much. She loves you down. If you have any further questions, or even yeah, like questions, things y'all are interested in seeing as we're moving into later episodes of the season, feel free to ping me on Instagram and let me know. But in the meantime, love y'all, miss y'all. We'll see y'all again soon, but can't make any promises about timeline. Love you, mean it. Bye.